Where would you like to start with the topic of reincarnation and afterlife traps? As I was saying in my intro, I think this is something that our modern society should have a much better understanding of. Because more people are becoming curious about reality and becoming aware of at least the corrupt nature of reality, there's been a big resurgence in Gnosticism and people looking at Gnostic spiritual traditions to try to understand reality because reality in our modern age does seem quite oppressive. All of our systems that we're subjected to, so that ultimately leads many to believe that even the afterlife is under control by negative forces. Where should we start with understanding that and reincarnation?
Yeah, so we often hear these stories, maybe from people who've had near-death experiences where they have some kind of life review process,
Mhm.
or they see the tunnel of light, the light is overwhelming, or they feel love and things like that, and then they are drawn towards this light. And very often, at the end, maybe they're gonna have some spirit guides, some kind of counsel, sometimes maybe a voice of some god or whatever, judging them, showing them maybe, life review, showing what negative deeds they have done in their lives. I know at least two people who had near-death experiences like that, and they told me about it. Um, I'm sure you've heard these types of stories,
Oh,
right?
yeah, many times.
So, in the past, I used to think that this is just a normal kind of mechanics of reincarnation after physical death. We might have to experience something like that. And then very often we are guided to maybe come back to repay some karma, some of these negative deeds and things like that.
Mhm.
And a lot of these negative incarnations where we suffer a lot might be associated with us doing something negative in the previous incarnations and things like that. And, you know, for the last couple of years, one of the things I've been focusing on is I'm doing these regressive hypnosis sessions. There are two types. So one is where you can examine a topic, is like researching some topics. So, for example, different people who do hypnosis or, intuitives try to gain some information about particular topic. And then another one is working with clients. So this is a little bit different because you work with someone and you gain their permission and you can tap into their lives and what they've been doing and things like that. And we normally work in twos. So I work with the psychic. So the psychic is like my eyes in astral realm, and I'm the one guiding him to tap into some situation or do some remote viewing or something like that.
Mhm.
And what we discovered through these techniques, and it's not only me, but several other people who have been doing similar things, we started noticing very often, this whole situation with live review, with the tunnel of light and things like that. And when we try to gain accurate information and, really see who are these helpers or what's going on there, we just discovered that it is always like reptilians or insectoids or
Whoa.
grays. And very
No.
often,
Oh,
what
man.
happens is that they can camouflage themselves to appear as whatever, if you believe in this religion, they
Yeah.
can show in this form. If you, sometimes it's just voice of God, sometimes it's just like some counsel. But what's we, this is my conclusion now that they can kind of use some technologies to change form. And even when you feel like radiating love or the light is amazing, this is harvested from people So, for example,
Wow.
when you go to the church and people pray and do these types of things, this is very often harvested for this need as one of the needs. Sometimes it's for other things as well. So, like, so let's say someone goes to church and I don't know, they do some ritual or something, or they pray to some God, whatever, or some Jesus or whatever archangel, and suddenly they felt some, love or presence for a
Yeah, yeah.
moment or had some uplifting moment. And this is very often the same system. So, the
Wow.
energy that is being harvested is being used to get people persuaded that this works and, in this setting, but it's also the same with what's happening after reincarnations. And then, the whole thing is about trying to convince the soul to come back to Earth and experience maybe some difficult life and agree to certain soul plan that is manipulated. And
Hmm.
then, the beings normally get access to the soul level because there is some agreement there. So it's a kind of like a partially, your own choice, but it's manipulated as well.
So you
And
and the psychic that you're working with are taking people through these regressions, and when you get to a certain level, a deeper layer, you understand or uncover that their relatives or loved ones are really reptilians or aliens in disguise to try
I
and
mean,
manipulate you.
it really depends, the forms are different.
Hmm.
So sometimes, it can be like the tunnel of light and then some kind of helpers or councils or whatever. I
Hmm.
personally never had a case yet where there would be a loved one that would actually, try to camouflage, but I heard that they can appear in this way as well. Like
Huh.
when my cousin had near-death experience, he just found a voice of God, kind of sounding like a voice of God. So it's just voice sounding intelligently and showing him, all the bad things he was doing in his life and saying to him, because when he had a near-death experience, it was like the voice was saying to him, do you want to come back? Do you want to finish this incarnation or do you want to go back? And he was like, and he had very tough life, so like addiction issues. His father was beating him up since he was a child, all these things, right? So
Hmm.
um, he overdosed one time and he found himself in this near-death experience kind of state. And the voice just said to him something like, your brain is overheating, you're gonna die in a couple of minutes or seconds or something like that. Do you want to stay or do you want to leave? And
Hmm.
then he told me that, his whole life was shown to him instantly. And he was like, he had enough of this life. So he said he wants to leave. He's thinking of leaving, something like that. And the voice then showed him like, said to him, you're gonna have to repeat everything you've been doing, or you're gonna have to do a lot of things again because you still have some things to do. So it's kind of like then he said, okay, I don't maybe I'm gonna go back in this case. I don't want to be like repeating and stuff like that. And then the voice, my cousin was like still, the voice said something like, you still have a few more moments. Is there anything you want to know? And he said, I want to know why my life look the way it looks, why it's so full of suffering, blah, blah. And then the voice showed him situation from, one of his past lives. We believe this is true, but it was kind of to show him like past life being reptilian actually and feeding off and like some suffering and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
showed him and explained him like your life is so bad because like this is the karma, something like that, or you chose it because you wanted to experience the opposite, or how some of the people or others felt in your presence. So when it sounded very convincing, and that was a couple of years ago, but after a while, and when we were using the techniques to try to examine the real form and everything, we realized that it was just one of these tricks. And this
Wow.
is very often, when we check, because you can check what's going on in these sessions on the exact level, because everything that happens, that's why they are not forcing you. You agree yourself, right? Because there
Hmm.
is a free will aspect. So, it's not like someone gonna tell you, oh, you go back and you have difficult life and we're gonna feed off your loose energy or emotions or whatever. You're gonna do it yourself. So it's like a little bit like, you would have um, a salesman that knocks to your door and sells you some crappy phone or something, and you are the one that bought it, you didn't realize that he was cheating on you or trying to rip you off. So it's a little bit like this. And yeah, I mean, so far, I
Wow.
don't know, is there anything you wanted to
Well,
add?
from everything that you've learned from these hypnosis experiences, would you say that the realm was designed this way, or has there been some sort of infiltration by these negative forces? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, you mean like the physical reality?
Our entire even the afterlife. According to what you're
So,
saying, these beings are quite deceptive to get us to come back and experience this again. Is that the natural way this realm was built for us, or has there been some sort of parasitic infiltration?
I mean, so for example, one thing that comes from these sessions is that the tunnel of light, which is not something that appears for everyone apparently, but
Hmm.
you heard these stories about
Yeah.
people going through this tunnel. At the end, there is light. The light is like overwhelming love, whatever. It feels really nice, and people are drawn to it. And this is supposedly a fake kind of construct that is designed to, because like the soul leaving the body is very often still not 100% aware, it's like the memories might take a while before they're going to start coming back and things like that. So it's a good moment to capture the soul, let's say, try to take advantage of the state. So that's one of the things that it seems to be just a kind of like a trap a little bit. Another thing about reincarnation here, I've seen sessions where we examined a different planet and there was the same story. So we just had a guy who had incarnations in these kind of rat-like races, It's like some kind of rat, humanoid rats.
Wow.
And it's pretty funny because like in this incarnation, he's obsessed with rats and even like some video game where they have like these rat lords and things like that, It's
Whoa.
like Warhammer, I think. They have like a very negative Luciferian type god of rats and things like that, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
when we checked, we had a session with this guy, we found out that yes, there were these types of rat races. There are somewhere, and they got apparently hijacked as well in a very similar way, by the same type of beings that interfere here. And they also had like started fighting with each other, had religions later on, and started creating these egregore gods, because
Hmm.
some of these gods that are part of religion are more like egregores, right? So they are construct of people, giving their attention to something that they've been programmed with.
Yeah.
They kind of pray to whatever. Like, for example, what's the Hindu Ganesha? I think it's
Ganesh.
Ganesha.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ganesh.
So when we try to get information about that, it appeared to be an egregore, and it was the same with this rat kind of god of theirs. So it was a little bit like this, people, let's say in that other realm or that other planet, you have similar scenario with different races, but the beings behind it were the same. So Baal, B-A, Baal,
Yeah.
Lucifer, but overall, very often it's like it's one big corporation. So it's like, astral beings work with, reptilians who can incarnate, or with insectoid types, or with grace. Grace very often work as more kind of helpers, like these kind of robotic, a little bit like biorobots, let's say, things like that.
Hmm.
So, it's kind of like different factions, but they often have the same goals.
Have you seen Disclosure Day yet?
No, no, I
I
heard it's
unfortunately
really
saw it.
bad.
It's
It's really
awful. I
bad.
unfortunately sat through and wasted almost 2 hours of my life yesterday to watch it. It is pure alien propaganda to get us to become fond of the gray aliens, show how much they love us, and all the wonderful things that they're doing for humanity. And they're giving us these abilities, and disclosure is going to be a gift. It was such awful propaganda. Of course, they'd want to propagandize aliens in a positive way if this is the way we're going to continue to feed the collective conscious about what aliens are.
I have not watched the movie. I heard from friends who are also into the same fields that is really
Yeah,
bad,
yeah.
and I should not waste my time. But from what you're saying is that, sounds a bit like this, the art of revealing, or whatever, where they try to show you that, many people talk about that there's going to be some disclosure happening, maybe even next year or something. So maybe they want to give you the types that they gonna push first to disclose or something, and
Mm-hmm.
then people being positively opened about them to accept them somehow. And this is often the free will element, because, like, you know, if the people agree they want that, or they think there are good guys or something about that, then it's easier to have access to people in many different ways. Maybe it's through some kind of hacking, or even like at the soul level, there can be captured, or used in one way or another. So I feel like whenever I hear something like that, it sounds a little bit like they just trying to prepare people so they accept it. It's like they give their permission in a way, because the free will is always the big element of everything here. If free will in a way protects us from access to us, right? Because it's like we all are given free will. We can say that free will is a little bit like the law of the universe, like karma or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing can happen to you if you're not allowing it somehow. And you have to give your permission one way or another. And sometimes the permission is hijacked a little bit. So it's maybe dreams can be hacked, like
Mm-hmm.
they can appear in dreams in different forms. Sometimes it's through rituals. So, like, people do some rituals, they think the ritual is harmless, but it's actually connected with a contract or karmic contract with some beings. So they try all sorts of trickery to get people to agree. Because once there is agreement, they can get more access and they can do whatever they want.
Do you think what we would consider to be theological demons are essentially interchangeable with these extraterrestrial beings? It's the same thing, just being presented a different way.
I mean, maybe it's like very often reptilian types are appearing a little bit demonic. So they have scales, they have like, kind of eyes, like yellow eyes, whatever, with some that looks like fire or something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's more or less what people associated demons with,
Mm-hmm.
because like probably from like some of the people that I know, like, I don't know. I think you interviewed Calogero Grifasi one time.
Yes. Yeah.
So Calogero is also like guy who created the techniques that we rely on for hypnosis and regressive hypnosis. Like we do our own stuff, which is different, but it's also based on some of his techniques. And he has like, he trained hundreds of people doing these regressive hypnosis sessions, and he has teams in different languages and from different countries. And we all kind of notice the same patterns when we do the sessions, right? So we notice that reptilians like Draco, which are more kind of they're more higher level, let's say, and then reptoids, which are more soldier types, they don't have wings. They are often like the most common type that gets involved in humanity, and especially when, soul level hijacking or some kind of implants or whatever. Insectoids seems to be pretty popular as well, like mantis types.
Hmm.
And then, like Grace normally working with them as helpers, and very often some astral types, like hooded beings, like these. I'm not sure if you heard about like the types that I think they're probably archonic or something. So hooded, like you normally don't see their faces. They
Like
kind of
shadow type beings.
um shadow as well, but they normally appear like in a robe,
Mm.
hooded, and you don't see the face.
Okay.
Have you heard about these?
I
Like,
have. I've heard them described before.
so they are very often linked to religion. So religious rituals like Christianity, Catholicism, they very often appear in many of these rituals they do.
Hmm.
And they are normally like what we at least learned, they're egregoria type. So they're not don't have souls, they're astral. And they probably most likely work with this negative AI that is part of creation of what's demiurge, because this is one of the beings that shows up, from like the top ones.
You mentioned a negative AI. Can you expand on that a bit? Is this something that also has infiltrated and now programs our realm in certain ways?
I mean, I'm hearing a lot about negative AI from a lot of people who do these sessions. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think I've seen anything myself yet or like proper evidence, but this is constantly the topic of people who do like this kind of energy clearing, removing implants and stuff like that. And it looks like it very often pretends to be a source. So like it can
Oh,
try to hijack the energy. Like if people pray to source in a negative way from like, maybe from fear or lacking or some kind of state where it's not pure, it's a lot more likely that then the fake source can try to hijack the prayer or get into agreements or
interesting.
something.
Hmm.
There are, different theories about it. Some say like it's just, um, hijacks some higher, also like reptilians through some nanobots and try to take them over through this way, like this type of stuff. Like from what I understand is like Demiurge apparently is the creator. Maybe it's also Luciferian, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
But they seem to be working together with Baal as well. Baal is also one of the top guys there.
You mentioned implants. How do implants come into these situations?
Yeah, so everything really like if you think about your as a human, as a soul in a human body, for example, we are polarized in a positive way, let's say. So you have your auric field, where you have the heart chakra being kind of the main engine. And this is it's like your immune system, right? So you are protected from these beings, let's say, from any kind of access to you. If you have strong field, like strong auric field, the flow in the chakra system is good, then you're constantly protected because they are the opposite in a way. So, like we like positive emotions, they like negative emotions. They like lush, they like fear, they like anger, they like someone who is in ego driven or something like that. Selfish, whatever, all these negative vibrations or emotions, this is kind of their energy type. They like to feed of that. And we are the opposite. We thrive more in like happiness, love, whatever. So in a way, we can say we're polarized opposite in a different way. That's why we repel each other. Your aura is gonna kind of repel the being. They don't like the heart center energy because it's really like garlic for a vampire or something like that.
Hmm.
So in order to access the person or try to suck the energy or something, they try to use all sorts of tricks and techniques. And they try to like either block the flow of prana in the body or, weaken the energy system. So let's say if you drink alcohol, that's already enough to weaken your auric field, and then the beings can have easier access to the person. So they try to send thought to the person, maybe temporarily inhabit the body or something for a
Hmm.
moment. That's one way. But another is through technologies, and there are many different types. And so they try many different ways. We when we do the sessions, like most people who never had these types of sessions, they're probably from the bottom to the top, like have something on chakras or whatever. So, for example, some rituals in the church you can be baptized, whatever. What are the other ones? I don't even know the English words for them, but communion, being
Communion, confirmation.
baptized. Yeah. So very often, some of them, like when you see the priest doing the cross on the forehead,
Mm.
this is a seal that they try to attach to the third eye to block the third eye, to
Mm.
block your ability to connect with your higher self or source, or kind of dilute it a little bit, or like, block it a little bit. So you're still connected, but less. So that's one example. And this is done through ritual, right? So the person doesn't understand what's going on. They think it's a positive ritual, whatever, but actually they just give permission to have it implanted. And some of these rituals, like we notice, let's say, I don't know, like what's the one when you are a child, like you're being baptized, right? Like
Baptized. Uh-huh.
when you are like very, very young. So, in this sense, because the free will is still like the parent kind of has free will on top of the kid in a way, because the kid is not really developed. Um, we noticed that there is some sort of agreement. They try to give access to the soul of the child
Mm.
already at the very beginning, but if the soul is advanced, let's say, kind of old soul, knows these tricks, understands it, it might not permit it, not allow it, even in the small child like this. If the priest has good intentions and he's not like high priest or someone who is really like thinking that he's doing something good, it may be the ritual's not going to work out. But this is a very first attempt. You just come here and boom, they try to hijack you straight away from the very beginning. But when we're talking also about implants, I can give you an example of my own implants that I had, because this is how I discovered these techniques.
Yeah.
So I used to experiment a lot with rituals and practices, to manifest something and things like that, spells, other things like that. And I had my Kundalini awakening probably around 2008 or 9. So I had this, kind of when I became sensitive, I opened my energy flow, and I started feeling my auric field, started feeling my chakras a little bit, my spirit guides, things like that from that period. So when I had some kind of implants, I knew about it because I feel my aura. And several times I noticed that when I had these experiments with manifestation and things like that, I would get this strange heavy energy on my back. Like this on the right side, for example, really heavy. And initially I had no idea like what was that, but it happened many times in a couple of years. So like one time, let me give you a quick example. I don't know how much time we have because
No,
I don't want
you're
I
good.
can talk about these things, but 2019, I was doing a prayer to Jesus, which is a big topic, whatever. I don't want to get into that, but I prayed for help on that time with business and some stuff like that. Normally I would not pray for business or whatever, but I prayed for something materialistic. And I remember I had a vision when I was meditating and having this kind of thing. I had a vision of a contract. So like a piece of paper with my signature on the bottom, tick. And I felt like, why would Jesus give me a contract? That's pretty strange. And over the
Hmm.
next couple of days, I started having like some kind of, things moving in the business. I just got into this partnership with a big page on Facebook that I wanted to get this partnership for many years and stuff like that. So things started moving really after this prayer to Jesus,
Hmm.
supposedly. And at the same time, because whenever there's something wrong, I get dreams, I get like information in the dreams, and I was being shown things like I'm being prepared for a barbecue on a skewer or something by demons,
Huh.
whatever, like symbolic
Whoa.
things like that.
Yeah.
And you know, it's also like what happened, like I'm not sure now, like maybe it was a different level of manipulation still, but at that time what happened was like I started thinking like I probably got myself into some kind of negative agreement or something, and I had this dream where, this massive angel flew like with like many meter long wings, and white, and grabbed my hand, and kind of we flew away, and there were these like negative beings everywhere trying to get my attention, something like that, grab me. And the next day after this dream, I discovered this meditation on YouTube, which is about removing karmic contracts, because I thought like maybe, this was, I was learning about that. I thought probably I got myself into something like that.
Hmm.
So in the meditation, it was basically like, as far as I remember, I think it was Archangel Michael meditation, even though like I would not say now that I'm very kind of I don't trust beings like that anymore. Like at that time, I was open.
Hmm.
So, I did the meditation. It felt better. Like I felt very good release, this finger on my back. And the same day when after that, I was doing some meditation again, and I had a vision of a massive scar on my right side where this heavy thing was, like on my back. So it's through half of my back, a scar, you know, and the heavy energy was gone. And then again, I've done it probably 4 times in a couple of years. So I've done some spells, I've done some kind of rituals where I wanted to manifest something. I feel this heavy thing. A normally person would not feel that because I have Kundalini awakening. I feel my aura, so I can feel this. Someone else who never had anything like that would probably not notice, because of that. So I had it several times through, and I started noticing patterns. It's been always like I manifest something, it's normally ends up really badly for me. Then I have this heavy thing and blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
So finally, I was getting in a lot of issues because of these things. Like getting in trouble, to accidents, like through getting myself into these contracts and things like that.
Hmm.
And I was looking for way to remove it. And at that time, I was still like looking outside. So, praying to archangels or someone, to remove it from me or whatever, which I think now is very risky and it's dangerous and it's very likely it's manipulation. And I finally, like last time I had it already for like 2 years, I knew I had it. I knew exactly how I had it from when, because I did a spell, something. And I realized, okay, this is manipulation. This is some like this kind of thing. So I suddenly like I ended up having a session, which I'm doing now, a similar session where someone actually removed it. Uh, and what was really interesting, like I was told that this was just sucking my energy. So, I would have less energy because of that. And then because I felt it, like I said, so for example, if I would do a breath work like Wim Hof breathing or something, I feel the prana in my system. I feel a little bit chakras start tingling, and this thing starts tingling as well because like a hole, it's attached to the aura. So it creates a hole in the aura, and and it sucks the energy or something. So I feel my aura, and I feel there is a hole in the prana on my back. And when it got removed, for about first of all, like I felt weak for about a week because it's like you had an operation, right? So it's like
Hmm.
you can think about physical same way as energetic. It's kind of has to heal, the aura has to heal and things like that.
Yeah.
And then after it got removed, I had these electric shocks for 2 months on my back, constantly, like some weird energies, which I was like, why is that? Like, I didn't feel that heavy on the right side anymore. I just felt like these weird electric shocks. And then after it healed, because it was healing basically, that's why I probably felt it this way, my energy jumped. So my energy just dropped a lot, and I was like super excited. I tried to get rid of it for 2 years. I couldn't. I found the solution. Now I'm excited, and my ego just started going through the roof,
Ah.
and I got another attack.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just like I've been dealing with it quite a bit. Some of these beings, once I start doing this stuff, they try to make your life hard as well. So
Hmm.
um, it's just became thing. But once I understood a little bit how it works, I think it's way easier now to not get myself in any of these things.
So, do you think it may be dangerous to pray to some of these beings, even from Abrahamic religions, that even these egregores and these archetypes have been hijacked by the negative etheric beings? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about the technique we're doing is like we only work with the soul of the client. So
Hmm.
the client is like, if the client give permission, he can take the permission. And then the source, right? The source is like we are the source, everything is source, and this is the higher aspect of ourselves. So I realized after, experimenting with esoteric stuff for a little bit over 20 years that there's no point to like give your attention or permission to anything outside of yourself or the
Hmm.
source or your own higher selves. And these are, for me now, the only kind of, let's say, beings I would pray to, which are kind of aspects of myself, my soul, my higher self, and source. And everything else could be manipulated, could be hijacked. Could very often these beings are not who people think they are. Could be like just created for humans, so they pray to them, and then through that they're being used or getting contracts or something, or create something. You never know. There might be some positive beings, but even when we look into like some sort of things like Krishna or something. Like we did a session on that. When it gets to like examining beings like that, it's not easy to get accurate information because they can, they can manipulate it maybe if there can be always like something that's gonna distort the
Hmm.
information because it's different when you work with a client who gives you permission, right? And
Hmm.
it's different when you work with something that you don't know if this is egregor, this is real, maybe it's negative and people think it's positive. So it can be deceptive, whatever. You don't get full access to the information sometimes.
Hmm.
But even with things like when we are looking at this, like Krishna or some of these Hindu gods, it would be like something for something, they're gonna help you, but they want something in return. Not maybe like
Yeah.
they're not gonna be negative in a way like these other ones that just try to like, take advantage of the person as much as possible, but always like a little bit of exchange of energy and something like that.
Hmm.
So what's the point of doing that if you have access to like source, you're a source, you have your higher self and you can get anything you need and it's
Yeah.
gonna
Do you
come.
think there is a
Yeah.
way to bypass the archonic soul trap system and make our way out of here?
Yeah, so one thing always like if you would ever get yourself in this live review, blah blah blah, with any kind of councils or whoever is gonna show up, um, I would say like first of all, you know, you c- you have the power, like they cannot do anything without your free will. So you can try to request original form of the being. Maybe it's gonna work out in this case because like everything is free will. So you can try to request that. You can try to look at the being in the eyes because it's hard to cover the eyes, and the eyes will very often reveal the true
Hmm.
nature. Try to hold the being's hand. You can then feel very often like there is a holographic something. That's one option. Like I would say, just straight away, if you're conscious and you left the body, just put intention. I want to go to a place which is safe. Like just put intention like this because it's astral, so you can teleport instantly and like straight away just get out of there, or don't even get involved in discussions or anything, no matter
Hmm.
how convincing they might appear. So
Hmm.
that's like some of the things. If you already like it looks convincing, whatever, you talk to them or something, you can try to like request their exact form, their real form, because they often can camouflage and look into the eyes, try to touch them, and definitely never agree to any contracts, agreements like that. If there is any agreement or contract or something written or even like wording, that's definitely a manipulation, definitely, because
Yeah.
like no good being's gonna give you a contract or any kind of agreement. If you come here with your real soul plan, or even if you want to have a difficult life for some reason, like maybe you want to challenge yourself, you know, grow, then you're not gonna be signing any contracts probably. You might get some agreements with your soul group, like maybe, you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna meet again, to do something again or something, to exchange maybe a situation. Now I'm gonna be in the other side or something like that. But it's not gonna look like, councils or angels or someone giving you some agreements or whatever.